Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the 6th Grand Prix of the 2026 season, the showpiece event of the Formula 1 calendar, the Monaco Grand Prix, the one, of course, that all the drivers want to win, and we are here for the 2026 edition on what is a very beautiful, hot, sunny weekend in Monte Carlo. The first Monaco Grand Prix we've had in June for at least a very long time. I'm not sure if it's ever been this late on in the year. Normally it's the last week or so of May. But here we are, first weekend of June, and this is the main event of the Monaco Grand Prix weekend, qualifying, where pretty much the result for the race is decided. If you get pole position in Monaco, you are essentially guaranteed to win the race, unless of a reliability problem or a big mistake made in the race. But if those two things don't happen, then it is practically impossible to lose the race from pole position here in Monaco. And that's why this session, coming up in just under an hour and a half's time, is going to be a very exciting one. Because we have got, I'd say, probably 3, maybe 4 different drivers who could get pole position today. So this is going to be a very, very exciting session. As expected, Ferrari have looked very good so far. Mercedes, though, clearly turned up the wick earlier in practice 3, earlier this morning, and have looked a lot better. Ferrari, though, didn't quite show, I think, their full potential in practice 3. So if you are a Ferrari fan, I would calm down just a bit if you're thinking, oh God, Mercedes are going to end up on pole, because, yeah, Ferrari didn't show, I think, their true potential. But I think we are in for a good battle between Ferrari and probably Mercedes. And let's not count out Max Verstappen, who has looked very quick all weekend and was very quick in Friday practice yesterday. We'll get into that data soon enough. But yeah, we're in for a very exciting session. It's going to be, I'd say, probably the most competitive fight for pole position that we've had in a few years at this circuit. I mean, the last couple years, yeah, we've had, a couple drivers really fight for pole, but today, it feels like we've got at least 3 drivers, maybe 4, who could legitimately take pole position. So, yeah, very much looking forward to it. Hope you guys are as well. And no matter what part of the world you're in, what time zone you're in, hope you're all doing well, and I hope you're all as excited as I am for qualifying today in Monaco. And I hope you can all join me today in either watching along or listening along to the stream to keep up with what's going on in Monaco. And yeah, session underway in about an hour and 25 minutes. Of course, we'll go through the usual build-up, going through what's happened so far this weekend, looking at the all-important data from Friday practice 2, which took place yesterday, and looking at just where the teams are at, who is the likely teams or drivers to fight for pole position and get into the top 10 from the midfield. We'll look at all of that and all the sector time data, and then of course I'll make my own predictions for this session. But also, of course, I want to hear from you guys. What do you think is going to happen in qualifying today? Who do you think takes pole position? There, of course, is a poll running in the chat where I've asked you guys the same question, and the options in that poll for possibly taking pole position, the most important pole position of the season, are Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, and Kimi Antonelli. Out of those 4, who do you think takes pole position? If it's anyone else other than the 4, say George Russell, or miraculously the 2 McLarens, and the reason I say miraculously is because McLaren have been very slow this weekend, which I'll get on to more so, proving why that is soon. Let me know in the chat if you have a different prediction for pole position other than those four. And I'll make sure to read it out in the chat. But good to see you all. Obviously, a couple weeks break we've had since the last Grand Prix. And now we are into my favourite part of the season, which is the European season of the Formula One calendar. The latest it's begun, I'm pretty sure in pretty much, I think it's got to be in F1 history, the latest a European season has begun. Normally the European season gets underway at the latest by the middle of May, but yeah, first weekend of June, and we're finally getting the European season underway. Of course, next weekend we've got the Spanish Grand Prix and a load more Grand Prix between now and the summer break, and then 3 more European races right after the summer break as well. So yeah, can't wait to get really into these next few races. But yeah, good to see you all. Hope you're all doing well. And yeah, let's get into, firstly, what's happened so far this weekend and look at the results of the most important practice session of the weekend so far. And I will also add some context in regards to practice 3, which finished about an hour or so ago, because certain teams have improved their lap times since the practice 2 session yesterday. So in practice 2, no real surprise, Ferrari were quickest and were first and second, 10th and a half quicker they were than the next car, being the Red Bull of Max Verstappen. Red Bull yesterday were very surprisingly quick, and even though Max was not very quick in practice 3, if you are a Red Bull fan, don't get too concerned just yet, because the lap time that Max did in practice 3 was, I think, a 1:13.5 or a 1:13.6, which is half a second slower than he went in practice 2. So that Red Bull definitely has a lot more pace in there than what was shown in the final practice session earlier today. But yeah, Ferrari, they really dominated yesterday. And again, it's no surprise. This circuit really has nothing to do with power, straight line speed. It is all about the quality of the aero, the chassis package, and the Ferrari has been revered really as the best in that area ever since the start of the season. And that's, why everyone coming into this Grand Prix said that Ferrari are the favourites. And yeah, no surprise that they were so quick in practice on Friday. Obviously, they weren't quickest in practice 3, but one thing, if you're a Ferrari fan, that you need to remember is in practice 3, Ferrari, their best lap time in practice 3 was 1:13.0, which is about the same lap time they did in practice 2. So there is more pace in that Ferrari car. There is no doubt about it. They can definitely go quicker than a 1:13.0. Pole position today is probably going to be a low 1:12. Probably, 1:12, anywhere between a 1:12.0 and a 1:12.2, I think, is what the pole position time will be. And yeah, Ferrari definitely will be at least very close to that. So yeah, Ferrari, I've no real concerns about them. I'm sure they've got the pace when it matters. Mercedes, though, yesterday, were not very quick. Their best lap time was a 1:13.4, and they were pretty much 4/10 off the pace of Ferrari in practice 2. Much quicker, though, they were in practice 3. 7/10 of a second improvement from practice 2 to practice 3. A 1:12.7 they did with Kimi Antonelli. So Mercedes have improved in terms of lap time, but have they actually improved from yesterday, or are they just showing more of their real, true pace? I think what is more likely is they're just showing what their real pace is. And I don't think a 1:12.7 is, that's a very good lap time for practice 3, but it's not something I think to be feared, put it that way. Especially if Ferrari can unlock the true potential of their car in qualifying, which has been something in the last couple weekends. They have not quite been doing, that well, Ferrari. They've had good pace through practice in the last couple weekends and then not quite delivered in qualifying. But again, if they can unlock that true potential, I think Mercedes are definitely there to be beaten. If Ferrari don't end up beating Mercedes today, then I really struggle to see where Ferrari can beat Mercedes, period, this season. So, yeah, I think Ferrari definitely have got a lot more pace in the bag, and I think they will be still the favourites for qualifying today. But Mercedes, I think, again, I don't think they have improved, really. I think they've just shown a lot more of their true pace. Mercedes should be quicker than Red Bull over a single lap, and obviously look to be miles quicker than McLaren. The only team really for Mercedes, I think, to properly worry about is Ferrari. Because again, if Ferrari can show their true potential, then Mercedes, I think, are probably expecting to end up second best in that battle. So, yeah, Mercedes just showing more of their true pace, and I think we will see a lot more of Ferrari's true pace when we get to qualifying. And then a big drop-off to Isaac Hadjar in 6th, who crashed in practice 2. Hadjar, he's been in the top 10, but he's been a lot slower than his teammate so far. He really needs to improve on that, because the Red Bull is looking a lot better than expected, and Hadjar, given how slow McLaren have looked, Hadjar should be in the top 6 on the grid. He really should be. And he also really needs to be, because if he can get in the top 6, then really should finish in the top 6, which would be, for him, I think, a very good result in that car. But yeah, just ahead, Hadjar, of the McLaren of Oscar Piastri. McLaren have been awful all weekend. They've only been barely quicker than Audi, really, all weekend. They were, in practice 3, about a tenth of a second quicker than Audi, but it's been very close between McLaren and Audi all weekend. McLaren, I don't think, also have shown their maximum potential. For example, I don't think they are a second a lap off the pace. I think it's probably more like 7 to 8 tenths. Oscar Piastri, we know, is not as quick as Lando Norris, his teammate, around this circuit. Last year proved that. Lando has always been very, very good here in Monaco. This is one of Lando's best circuits. So, yeah, I don't think McLaren's true potential either has been shown. But even if Lando shows the true potential of the McLaren, I think the best position they can get looks to be 6th place. And that's only really because Isaac Hadjar is unable to get anywhere near close to his teammate Max Verstappen. If Hadjar can get, say, within 3 or 4 tenths, then really Hadjar should be ahead of the 2 McLarens. But yeah, McLaren are clearly the 4th best team and are a lot closer to the midfield than they are to the front. In fact, I would say if their pace that they've shown so far, if that continues, if they continue to show that level of pace in qualifying in the race, they're more of a midfield team this weekend. Because, 7, 8 tenths of a second a lap off the pace. I mean, by the end of the race, if it's a, full green flag race with no safety cars, they're going to end up, about a minute, probably, away from the race winner, which is absolutely massive amount of time around Monaco. So, yeah, McLaren are nowhere, absolutely nowhere. They're not a contender for pole. If they could get a car in the top 5, that would be honestly a miracle for McLaren. They have been that slow. As long as they end up ahead of all of the midfield, then that is realistically the best they can do. And it'll either be, if they can get both cars ahead of all the midfield runners, they'll either be locking out the fourth row, 7th and 8th, or if Isaac Hadjar is still not doing his best pace, then maybe they can get into 6th place, which would be, I think, again, the absolute best result they could possibly get. I am surprised quite a bit by how slow McLaren have been this weekend. I really thought they would be not the quickest team, but I thought they'd only be maybe 2 to 3 tenths off the pace of, say, Ferrari, which if they were yesterday in practice too, probably would have put them ahead of Mercedes. But yeah, they look like they are miles off it. So yeah, McLaren, don't consider them a contender as far as I'm concerned. Audi, though, very good to see their performance so far. Both cars in the top 10 in practice too. Both cars, I'm not sure if both cars were in the top 10 in practice 3, but they were once again the fastest midfield team. And they have been pretty clearly the fastest midfield team all weekend. So, yeah, very good to see. I thought they'd have a decent weekend, but I didn't think they would be the best midfield team. I honestly still thought Alpine would be probably taking that mantle. But, yeah, very good to see. And very important as well for Audi, because if they can get both cars into the top 10, that would be crucial for them because they desperately need points on the board. They're 9th in the championship with only 2 points. They really need, if they can finish 9th and 10th the race tomorrow, at least 9th and 10th, that's 3 points. That would be, at least something to get them going in 2026 because they have not started well and they are quite a bit behind, I think, where they wanted to be. Not just position, but just real lack of point scoring so far this season, which I don't think anyone really expected, given how good they looked through pre-season testing. So, yeah, good to see from Audi, looking very good. And I'd be surprised if, I'd be surprised if none of their cars made the top 10. I think definitely Hulkenberg makes the top 10. Whether Bortoletto does is another story, but yeah, Audi, watch out for them. And then you got Oliver Behrman in P10. Haas looking a lot stronger here, which is not really a surprise. To be honest, I thought they'd be a bit closer to Audi. 4 tenths off the pace of Audi is a bit surprising. But Behrman is thankfully competitive enough, and Haas is competitive enough that they can definitely get in the top 10. And if he can, Behrman, deliver a lap that gets him in the top 10, then that would be a super effort from him and the team. But let me just quickly go through the rest of the order from practice 2. In 11th place, you had Pierre Gasly. Watch out for Gasly. He's always been very strong in Monaco. And Alpine, I do think, have got a bit more pace in the car than what they've shown so far. 12th and 13th, the 2 Williamses. Also, keep your eye on them. Carlos Sainz, especially. He's also very good here in Monaco and has had a great season so far. Lindblad then in 14th. Then Colapinto, Lawson, Ocon. Ocon surprisingly low down given that he's normally quite good here in Monaco, but 4 tenths off his teammate. Ocon continuing to show poor pace. And then Sergio Perez in 18th, only 2 tenths off the pace of Ocon. Cadillac are still one of the slowest teams, but they're not that far off the back of the midfield. So keep your eye on them as well. Lando Norris 19th. Norris had, I think, engine issues in practice too. That's why he didn't show his proper pace. He only did 8 laps in practice 2. And then Fernando Alonso 20th. Valtteri Bottas 21st and Lance Stroll 22nd. Stroll about second slower than his teammate. I think this, and we'll go through the sector time data, which will just prove this, but that Aston Martin, I know it's been said a lot about the engine being terrible, and it is. But I think people really underrate just how bad the chassis is. It really, the whole car is just a complete mess. Because if it was just the engine and the car was good, then they would be properly in the midfield and be able maybe to fight towards, 12th, 13th place or something like that. But yeah, the whole car is just a complete mess. They are literally slower than Cadillac this weekend, even though this is the least power-reliant circuit on the calendar. So, yeah, that just proves that to a T. But let's get into the sector time data, just to understand why the pecking order is maybe the way it is and why it has been the way it is so far. So the first sector is the least important sector. It's by far the easiest part of the lap. You have Saint-Devote, turn 1, then you're flat out all the way up the hill into Casino Square, and then the left and the right, and then down the hill into the end of the first sector. Again, it's not easy, but it's the easiest by far part of the circuit, and also by far the least important sector of the lap in terms of showing legitimately why certain cars are so quick. But let's go through the times anyway. Ferrari, the quickest team by a couple hundredths, and then Max and the Red Bull not far behind either. Then a quite a big gap to Audi, quarter of a second off. Alpine, another, half a tenth off. And then McLaren, 3.5 tenths off Ferrari in just the first sector. There is no legitimate reason for McLaren to be that far off in the first sector. It just isn't. If anything, this should be McLaren's strongest part of the lap compared to Ferrari, because this is the area where the engine is most, or if any advantage from your power unit is going to be shown, it will be in the first sector, because the McLaren obviously has a far superior power unit to the Ferrari. But yeah, 3.5 tenths off. So yeah, there is something fundamentally wrong with that McLaren car this weekend. I don't know what it is, but they just don't have the grip, anywhere near the grip of Ferrari, Mercedes, or Red Bull this weekend. That is, clear to see. And then McLaren, only slightly quicker than Racing Bulls and Williams and Haas. And then Cadillac, only a couple tenths off in the first sector compared to Haas. Remember, Cadillac and Haas are both powered by Ferrari, so that's a good comparison for Cadillac to have. But then look at Aston Martin. 1/10 off in the first sector. Again, I know the first sector is mostly flat out, but still, come on. That just should not be happening. And for Cadillac, as you can see, it gets even better in the middle sector, but there is some important context that I will need to add in regard to their position. But this part of the lap, the middle sector, this is where Ferrari are really showing their dominance, or their, why they do have most likely the best car. Because they are pretty much 2 tenths quicker than Red Bull and Mercedes in just the middle sector. And the middle sector is full of slow speed corners. Obviously, you do have that short straight, through the tunnel going down to the Nouvelle Chicane. But that's what makes the Ferrari car so good, is in the slow corners and the traction out of those slow corners, the Ferrari is by far the best car on the grid in those types of situations. And that's why in that middle sector where you've got, a couple really slow corners, that's why they are just so quick. 2 tenths quicker indeed than, again, Red Bull and Mercedes. I must say, Red Bull very much surprised at how quick they are, because we have seen so far this season in slower speed corners, they've been pretty pedestrian and not so great at all in those slow speed corners. But Red Bull, as you can see, every race that comes along now, they are making big improvements. And I think by far, in the last couple races or so, they've been the most improved team on the grid. And like I said, continue to improve all the time. Really interested to see where Max ends up today. If he can out-qualify the two Mercedes cars, that would be a really great omen going forward for Red Bull. But yeah, Ferrari, again, that's why they're so quick this weekend, because in the slow corners, their car is just on a different level compared to everything else. And then look at McLaren, 5.5 tenths off the pace in just the middle sector. Even if McLaren were quick in the first and final sector, it wouldn't matter, because the middle sector, they are miles off of it. And I don't know if it's a tyre warm-up issue or just in the slow speed corners, the McLaren just isn't that good. I don't think the McLaren personally is that good in slow speed corners, but I didn't think it was this bad. I'll be honest. I thought it'd be better than the Red Bull, but yeah, it really is not good. And as you can see, they are closer to the midfield than they are to the front three teams. Audi only a tenth behind, and then Haas right behind them, and then Williams, Alpine, and then look, Cadillac only a tenth behind Alpine, and only a tenth and a half slower than the same powered team, the Haas team. Again, same powered in terms of both being customers of Ferrari. That is, for them to only be, 3.5 tenths, or no, not 3.5 tenths, 2.5 tenths slower than Haas after only the first two sectors, that's very positive for them. I know it's a shorter track, shorter layout, but it does show that Cadillac also, all the time, are getting better and getting closer to that midfield pack. Racing Bulls, then, you got down in 10th place, but there is some important context that I need to add with Racing Bulls, because both drivers complained of not having enough steering lock for the hairpin, the Lowe's hairpin, used to be called the station hairpin many years ago. And I do think that's a big contributing factor to why they were so slow yesterday. Because, if they had the proper steering lock, they probably would be right in there with Williams and Alpine. So I think Cadillac are probably the second slowest team in the middle sector. But still, positive to see that Cadillac are still not that far off the pace of the midfield. And then Aston Martin, again, absolutely pathetic. 2 tenths off Cadillac in a part of the track where their car should be vastly superior if it is just a power-related reason why they are so slow. But again, it's not. That's what makes this Aston Martin just so bad. They've got no power and no grip. It's not like the McLaren Honda days, where the McLaren car back in 2015 and 2017, aerodynamically speaking, it had enough downforce to be fighting at the front of the midfield, but their power unit was so bad, that's why they were towards the rear of the field. The Aston Martin is legitimately the worst car in all areas. Aero, chassis, engine, brakes, gearbox, all of it. It is, every part of that Aston Martin is diarrhea. And that is why they are the slowest team here in Monaco. And if they do finish the Monaco Grand Prix, they're going to be probably 3 or 4 laps down by the end of the race, which is a complete joke at the end of the day. 3 years ago, remember, they almost and really should have won this race with Fernando Alonso if they had made the right tyre decision in terms of moving on to, I think, was it the intermediates? If they had moved on to the intermediates at the right time, 1 lap sooner, Alonso probably would have won that race. 3 years later, they'll be lucky to end up, say, any less than 3 laps down. Just, yeah, incredible how this team has just completely fallen apart in such quick time. 3 years ago, 2023, not that long ago. So, it just shows you how quick things do change in Formula One. Because, 3 years ago, Aston Martin were one of, not the quickest team, but they were one of the quickest teams in Formula One. Red Bull were dominating Formula One. Mercedes were miles off the pace at every Grand Prix. now look where we are. Mercedes are now dominating most races. Red Bull haven't won a race so far. And Aston Martin get lapped multiple times a race. So that's the beauty, really, of Formula One in just how quickly things do swap around. But yeah, for Aston Martin, it's just incredible how quickly they have fallen apart. And it's not, again, just down to Honda. It is, I think, mostly down to Aston Martin. And then the final sector, of course, you've got the exit of the swimming pool section, which I'd say is medium speed. And then you've got Raskas and Anthony Nogues, two very important slow speed corners where you really do need a very strong front end and a very strong car under brakes. And again, the Ferrari, very good in that area. And that's why they're the quickest through that part of the lap. Half a tenth quicker than Red Bull, 10th quicker than Mercedes. McLaren a lot stronger in the final part of the lap, but still closer to the midfield than they are to the front. Audi and Williams looking good. Then a bit of a drop-off to Haas, Alpine and Racing Bulls. And then for some reason, Aston Martin are actually quicker than Cadillac in the final part of the lap by about a tenth. But it doesn't make really any sense, because if they're this quick in the final sector, I don't see why they can't be, ahead of Cadillac and on the pace of certain midfield teams in the middle sector. But again, this Aston Martin car is just so bad. But overall, the middle and final sector is really where Ferrari are showcasing their superiority. Again, slow speed corners, traction zones, under braking, their car, the front end of the car especially, is just so good. And that's why they are, I'd still say, the clear favourites for pole position. Mercedes, yeah, they look still, I'd say Mercedes look good, but I wouldn't say Mercedes are looking good enough if everyone does show their true potential in qualifying, which of course we know doesn't always happen, but if it does, at least at the front, then yeah, it's Ferrari's to lose, really. So if we go back to the top 10 from practice 2. So yeah, Ferrari, I do think, have got the fastest car. By how much? I reckon probably a couple tenths of a second. I'd say no more than that. Mercedes, again, I don't think they showed their true hand yesterday. I think Mercedes, if you were to say all the teams yesterday were sandbagging, I think Mercedes were definitely sandbagging a bit more than others, but still not to the point where they, secretly they've got the best car. I don't think it's to that level. Like I said, I think Ferrari have got the best car, and then I'd say Mercedes, I think, are second best. Red Bull, not too far behind. Third best, probably a tenth or two slower. And then quite a big gap then to McLaren, who I think are about 3/4 of a second off the pace. So yeah, McLaren fourth. Audi, pretty comfortably fifth. Sixth, it's really between, for me, Alpine, Haas and Williams, and I'd probably go Alpine as being sixth, and then Haas 7th, Williams 8th, Racing Bulls 9th, and then Cadillac 10th, Aston Martin in last place. That's what my pecking order is for qualifying. I don't expect much of it to be different when we do get to the actual session. I think the midfield could be very different, say in the that area with Alpine, Haas and Williams. It's very close between those three teams. But really, for the top 5, Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, Audi, I think it's very likely going to remain that order, that pecking order for qualifying and, of course, for the race itself. But regarding that pecking order, let's get into my final prediction for qualifying. And I believe it will be the Monegasque, Charles Leclerc, taking what would be his 3rd pole position here in Monaco. I think he will, just to get ahead of Lewis Hamilton. Second. Third will be Kimi Antonelli. Max Verstappen, I think, will split the two Mercedes. And the reason I think that is two reasons. One, Verstappen is performing very well right now, and George Russell, I think, is a bit out of form. And I think Max will capitalise on that to get himself on the second row. Be a great result if Max was to end up in the top four. And then, yeah, Russell fifth. And then I think Isaac Hadjar will do enough to get sixth on the grid. Fourth row of the grid will be the two McLarens of Norris and Piastri. And then Hulkenberg in ninth for Audi. And Gasly will take 10th. Because, again, he is always very quick in Monaco. So that's my top 10. And if you're wondering why I've gone with Leclerc ahead of Hamilton, it's because Leclerc is more consistently good in qualifying here in Monaco. If you look at the last few qualifying sessions for Lewis Hamilton here in Monaco, it's been very all over the place. He's not really... the last proper good qualifying session he had here was probably his last pole position here in 2019. Leclerc, like I said, he's had 2 pole positions here in the last 4 years. 2022, 2024. Last year, 2025, he was absolutely brilliant in qualifying, but just didn't have quite enough to beat the McLarens, who were just... McLaren were just too quick for Leclerc and for Ferrari. But Leclerc, I think, was probably the better performer compared to the McLaren drivers, given how close he was able to get to pole position. And, if you look at the last few years here in qualifying, Leclerc is always one of the stars of the show. And I think when it comes down to it, I think he will deliver pole position. But Lewis Hamilton easily could take pole position himself. One thing we do need to remember is, if you look at the last few years, Hamilton, not really until this year has he actually had a car that is actually that good around this circuit. The last car he had that was actually properly competitive here was probably the 2021 Mercedes, but that weekend he ended up, 14th on the grid. And I know that was that because of a red flag? I seem to remember it was. But even if you go and look earlier in the weekend, he was not really doing that great. But I think that's one thing to remember with Hamilton is, like I said, he's not had a proper strong car here to really do anything with in the last few years. So maybe now with a really strong car, maybe we will get a pole position from Lewis Hamilton. But another thing to add with Hamilton is, of course, despite him being, at least in my view, the greatest of all time, Monaco's not always been that great for him. He's had a couple amazing wins here. 2008, 2016, even the 2019 win I thought was a great win, considering he had to hold on for so long on really old, dead tyres. But if you look in qualifying, given the cars he's had over the years, he's not consistently been that great, compared to other tracks. A lot of other tracks on the calendar that we've been to so regularly in the last 20 years or so. So, yeah, I think Leclerc is more likely, put it that way. But if Lewis Hamilton was to end up on pole, would I be surprised? No, I wouldn't. Because he's in good form, and the Ferrari car, I believe, is the best car for this circuit. But guys, let me know in the live chat, what do you think? Who do you think takes pole position? Will it be one of the Ferrari drivers, and if so, which one? Will it be one of the Mercedes drivers, and if so, which one? Or will it be the wild card in the pack, Max Verstappen? If Max took pole today, I don't think there'd be any question anymore about whether he's the best on the grid. I mean, can there be any question even now that he's the best on the grid? But it would just be another example of how absolutely absurd the guy is. But realistically, yeah, surely he cannot drag that Red Bull onto pole. I do think, though, third is possible for Max, especially if the two Mercedes drivers don't quite have the greatest Q3. So don't count Verstappen out from having a really good session. I think for Max, as long as he can get in the top 4 on the grid, I think that is, really the absolute best of what he can do. If he ends up 3rd or 4th, for example, I think that's really, you can't ask any more from him. And if he was then to go and get, say, the podium, or even just finish in 4th place, that'd be a really very good result for him, given the how the Red Bull car has been this season. But as you can see, guys, we have got just over 45 minutes to go until the main event of Saturday here in Monaco, and the main event of the weekend in Monaco, which is qualifying for the Grand Prix on Sunday. So again, let me know your thoughts going into qualifying. What do you think is going to happen? Who do you think is going to get on pole? What teams are you looking out for? What drivers are you looking out for? And just in general, let me know your thoughts going into qualifying. Before I go into any comments of yours in the chat, just want to say quickly, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, because obviously we do qualifying and race watch-alongs consistently every Grand Prix. Well, not race watch-alongs for every Grand Prix, but definitely qualifying watch-alongs. So make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it there, or just click on my channel name, go to my channel page and click subscribe. And also, for everybody watching, smash that like button. Let's try and get the likes on this stream up as high as possible. So, yeah, please, if you could do that, that'd be great. But, yeah, let's get into, I think, some comments from you guys in the chat. Normally around this time of the stream, I like to do like a channel update. The only thing I can say regarding any channel updates is, of course, we've got the Spanish Grand Prix next weekend. So in terms of content plan, obviously we're just focusing on these next 2 races. If you did not see my announcement for the schedule of the content for this Monaco Grand Prix, I'll just quickly re-announce that, yeah, I'm doing a qualifying watch-along, obviously, right now, but there will not be a race watch-along tomorrow because it's the race in Monaco and nothing happens, and it's going to be a dry race, so, yeah, that's why I'm not doing a race watch-along. And then, of course, yeah, next weekend is the Spanish Grand Prix from the Circuit de Catalunya. And I will be doing at least a qualifying watch-along. But I don't know yet if I'm going to do a race watch-along. I haven't decided yet. Once I do my podcast, though, for this Grand Prix on Monday, I will have decided by then. So if you listen to that podcast on Monday and you listen to the end, then I will announce by the end of that podcast whether I am going to do a race watch along or not. But in terms of recorded videos, there will not be any more. I obviously uploaded a recorded video about the Mercedes battle so far between Kimi Antonelli and George Russell. If you haven't checked out that video, make sure to do so. It's on my channel page. It's the last video I did. If you go under the videos tab on my homepage, you'll find it. Like I said, it's the latest video that I've uploaded. I uploaded it on Monday. So yeah, make sure to go and check that out. But yeah, there won't be any more recorded videos for just a moment, because of course we're now getting more races more frequently. So the next recorded video will probably be either between the British and Belgian Grand Prix in July, sometime mid-July, or I might just wait until we get to the summer break before uploading my next batch of recorded videos. But I'll let you guys know what the plan is regarding that. But yeah, in regards to say this month, we are just focusing on the Grand Prix themselves. So there won't be any content outside of the Grand Prix weekends. It'll either be watch-alongs or podcast episodes between now and the end of the month. And, well, not between now and the end of the month, but between now and, say, the end of the British Grand Prix weekend, which is the first weekend of July. So, yeah, that's pretty much your content update for the next month. And, yeah, can't wait to get into the next few races as this season starts to hot up. But let's get into your comments. Good to see a decent amount of you tuned in as well. Hello to all of you. Hope you're all doing well. Herman says, Chazza, long time. Hello to Astro. Good to see you. Let me just scroll down, and yeah, hello to all of you. Good to see you all. Vettel Hamilton saying Lewis Hamilton to win the Monaco Grand Prix. Very well could happen. Hamilton has won this race, 3 times previously? And yeah, 2 of those were in wet conditions. And yeah, those 2 wins were very, very exciting and just amazing performances by Hamilton. Even though that 2016 race, yeah, he was helped quite a bit by Ricciardo's really slow pit stop. But still, the way Hamilton performed, especially on those full wet tyres on almost a bone dry circuit, to then keep ahead of Ricciardo and to ultimately deliver the win was yeah, special. But not as special, I think the 2008 win was. The 2008 win, I think, was the best of his Monaco victories. And yeah, Rooks, good to see you as well. He just posted in the chat. So people are aware that there is no DRS here at Monaco. Teams have been allowed to remove the actuator, motor, and add extra winglets to the fixed rear wing. Yeah, because obviously, DRS, or the drag reduction element of opening your rear wing and flexing the front wing and all of that is useless around here because you can't overtake. That's not a thing this weekend, so you won't see the rear wings open at all through the weekend, even in the race, even if they're within a second, or I think they open anyway, don't they? Regardless if they're within a second of another car. But yeah, they that's been removed this weekend because it's basically just pointless, and also because it increases the speeds of the cars dramatically. Obviously, when they flex those wings to dramatically reduce drag, and given that it's not gonna help do any overtaking this weekend, it's useless. Therefore, there's no point having it, and the teams would much rather just add even more winglets and downforce to help their performance. Astro saying apparently Albon will now have as many race starts as Nigel Mansell if he starts here. That's actually crazy. Yeah, Mansell, I don't know how many race starts Mansell had, but I know Mansell was obviously Formula One driver from 1980. When did Mansell start? Was it 1981 or 82? And then he obviously won the championship in 92, then left and went and raced in kart. Came back and did a few races for Williams, and then he did the first 2 or 3 races for McLaren, and then they, I think, mutually parted ways because Mansell was the definition of a washed driver at that point and was overweight. But yeah, that is mental. I think, though, people don't realise, even though Alex is still relatively young, I don't think people realise how long Albon has been around. He was in F2, what we now know as F2, for a year, but he was in F3 before. How long was he in F2 for? Was it a year? No, it was 2 years. Pretty sure it was 2 years, because I'm pretty sure he was in F2 the year that Leclerc won it in 2017. So yeah, 2016, I think he was in F3, then did a couple years in F2, and then he started in F1 in 2019. And not to make us feel old, because some of you in the chat were around, in our live chats and in the comments section of this channel back then, but that was 7 years ago. 7 years since he made his debut, and obviously there's a lot more races on the calendar now than there was back in Mansell's day. So yeah, it seems like it is actually true, but it is still astounding to think, because when you think of Alex Albon, you don't think that he's actually been here that long, but he has. But not having a great season, unfortunately, is Albon. Currently down his 17th in the championship, and being vastly outperformed by his Spanish teammate Carlos Sainz, who's been vastly outperforming Albon since the summer break, really, of last year. But unfortunately for Williams, despite having the best engine, their car is absolutely rubbish. It still has a lot of improvement to be made. Still, I think they are still by far as one of the most overweight team on the grid. By the way, one thing I wanted to announce, or not, well, I guess, yeah, announce. I noticed when I uploaded my Mercedes video a few days ago that I am getting very close to 1,000 videos on this channel. That's 1,000 uploaded videos. That's, videos, streams, whatever. Today's stream, this stream I'm doing right now, is 998. So my podcast on Monday will be 999. So next week, when I do my qualifying watch along for the Spanish Grand Prix, that will officially be the 1,000th video on the channel. So I will make sure to prepare some sort of written something so I can thank many people for the journey to where we've got to at this point. Because I thought that was quite incredible. I know we've done a lot of content on this channel since pretty much the last 8 years, but 1,000 videos is just mad. But yeah, next Saturday's qualifying watch along will be the 1,000th video on this channel. Let me just scroll down a bit, see what you guys are saying. Astro saying Gasly has 182 race starts and Ocon has 185, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, Ocon, I mean, maybe that's why he's got to the point now where he's, I think, clearly past his best, but Ocon has been around for pretty much now 10 years in Formula One. When we get to August, I think that'll be the 10-year anniversary of when Ocon made his debut with Manor at was it the Belgian Grand Prix that weekend? And yeah, a lot has happened, especially in Formula One, in that 10 years. I mean, even though he is not the most spectacular driver, Esteban has still had a great career. He's had a few podiums, and of course, he won a race in Hungary 2021. Rooks asking what was the pit stop faux pas that caused Ricciardo to lose that Monaco win way back then. He tried everything to get back past. What was it? So Hamilton stayed out on wets, and I think Ricciardo pitted from wets to go on to inters, but the team wasn't ready for him. They weren't ready. They for some reason, either there must have been some sort of miscommunication, but he came into the pits and the team weren't ready for him. So they wasted like 7 or 8 seconds, and Hamilton went through. And then Ricciardo, obviously, then on better tyres, tried to overtake. And then there was that incident where Hamilton very nearly pushed Ricciardo into the wall, which people still complain about that to this day. And yeah, I think you have every right to be mad about that incident, because I mean I think we've seen incidents like that be punished before. But the reason Ricciardo lost that race was because Red Bull weren't ready for him when he pitted. If he had had a normal pit stop, he would have come out in the lead and he would have won that race easily ahead of Lewis Hamilton. But yeah, Red Bull messed up big time. And it was such a shame for Daniel, because he was unbelievable that weekend. He was that weekend from Ricciardo. That's one of the best race weekends of his career. He was just on a different level to what we've seen from him most times. I mean, he was a great driver back in his day, and he had many great race weekends. But that weekend in particular, my God, he was special. But yeah, he was robbed of the win. Absolutely was robbed of the win. Luckily, though, he did get his Monaco win 2 years later, even though his Renault engine tried to take it from him. But yeah, that 2016 weekend, Ricciardo was the man. He was so good that weekend. And I think that weekend from Ricciardo is a clear example of how, if you are at the top of your game and you are an elite driver, you really can, around this track, showcase that. Because Ricciardo, you could argue 2016 was his best season, and that weekend was probably the best weekend of his career in terms of just the levels he achieved with his own driving. It was, a special weekend. But let me just post a link of the stream out one final time, and then we'll get into some more of your comments. And also, I will just go through the teams and do a quick preview of where the teams should be and where they should be aiming for in this session. So let me just quickly do this. Come join us here along the main event for Monaco. Right, so there you go. So hopefully we'll get some more people hopping on soon enough. But I will make sure to I will make sure, what do you call it, to come back to your comments soon enough. So keep them coming. Keep those predictions coming. You know, who do you think is going to be where? Who do you think is going to take pole position? Of course, there is a poll running in the chat where I've asked you guys, out of Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, and Antonelli, who you think will take pole position. A reminder, as usual, that poll will keep running until the start of Q3. So when we get to the start of Q3, that's when we'll find out the results and who the majority of you guys have voted for. But let's just quickly do a roundup of the teams before we get into this session. So Mercedes, if they've got the pace for pole, of course they should aim for it. But I think if they don't have, if they are that couple tenths away, which they look to be so far this weekend, then I think really they just need to make sure that they are ahead of everybody else. Because, and I think even Mercedes, they've even been saying coming into the weekend that Ferrari are the favourites. So I don't think it would surprise Mercedes-Benz if Ferrari outqualified them, especially with both cars. So as long as they get ahead of everybody else and they put themselves in a position where they're at least there to capitalise if Ferrari somehow throw it away, which they have done before. Remember, Ferrari locked out the front row here in Monaco in 2022 and somehow threw that away. So it's not impossible. They just got to do that at least. But if they can get pole, and they do get it, it will be the best pole of the season without doubt, because this is going to be probably their weakest circuit of the season, given that the main advantage of what makes Mercedes having such a great car is the engine, and of course that doesn't matter here. So if they can get pole, great. If not, just make sure that you're locking out, say, the second row of the grid, or if you can get on the front row, get on the front row. But I think they even expect Ferrari to be on pole. And for Ferrari, they must take pole position. If they don't get the front row, maybe you could excuse it, especially if Antonelli or Verstappen produces a lap from nowhere, which nobody expected, some sort of amazing lap that, we have seen those here before. But they cannot not get pole position. They absolutely must, especially if they want to fight for the championship later this season, because the Ferrari car, it is still going to improve. There are engine improvements coming soon, from what I've heard. And if they do win this Grand Prix, and especially get a 1-2, then they can keep the gap close enough in both the Drivers' and Constructors' Championship, so that when those improvements do come, hopefully, then they can start gaining and properly making a fight of it in both championships. But if they do not win this Grand Prix, which, if you don't get pole, you're not going to win here. That's really just how it goes here at Monaco. Then the season is over, basically, in terms of, can Ferrari do anything really of note this season, especially compared to last year, where, remember, Ferrari still have not won a Grand Prix since Mexico in 2024, which was, 18 months ago. So this Grand Prix, this session, is not just important in terms of getting their first win in 18 months, first win of the season, and all of that. It's also could be a season-defining victory, because if they get the victory, they get even maybe a 1-2 in qualifying, which most likely leads to a 1-2 in the race, then they can keep their championship hopes properly alive, at least on the constructors' side. Driver's side is looking tough at the minute, but it's still not totally out of play. But if they don't win this weekend, their chances are over. For Red Bull, I think as long as Max gets in the top 5, I think they'll be satisfied with that. If he can get any higher than 5th, I think will be pretty happy with that. I don't think they were really expecting to do much of anything this weekend. If Max can capitalise on maybe George Russell not being quite at his best, or Antonelli maybe not hooking up a lap, or maybe one of the Ferraris not quite hooking up a lap, then they might be able to get a really great result. But yeah, as long as they're in the top 5, and with Hadjar, if he can be a bit closer to his teammate, then really a third row lockout, 5th and 6th, is the minimum of what Red Bull should be getting in this session. Meanwhile, for McLaren, very surprisingly, they are quite far off the pace. I thought they'd be fighting for 3rd, 4th on the grid, but they look like they're fighting just to keep ahead of the midfield. If both drivers produce their best laps, they should end up ahead of the midfield and probably will lock out the 4th row of the grid at worst. If Isaac Hadjar continues to be quite slow, then 6th place is up for grabs. So if they can get that, great. But it would be a miracle if they end up in the top 5 on the grid. It really, really would, given how slow they've been this weekend. For Audi, as long as they get one car in the top 10, I think that's enough. If they can get both cars in, that's fantastic. But one car absolutely must make it in, because not only do they clearly have the best midfield car this weekend, but they really need to get going this season. They need points on the board. They are quite far, I won't say quite far behind, but a bit behind where they probably should be in the championship at this point of the season, given the car they do have in terms of its overall competitiveness. This really could be the catalyst for, springing Audi into having actually a good season, but they need to make sure they deliver in qualifying today. Hülkenberg, of course, has much experience around this circuit. Bortoletto, a lot less experience, but as long as they get one car in the top 10, 9th or 10th, then that is job done. Haas, not looking massively quick, but they are quick enough to get a car in the top 10, especially with Oliver Behrman, who has been one of the standout performers of 2026. And watch out for Behrman, because if he does nail a lap, I would not be surprised if he is in the top 10 later on. Esteban Ocon, though, keep your eye on him, because I think because he is still quite far off the pace of his teammate, I think he might be struggling to get into Q2. So watch out for him. He might fall foul of the cutoff zone in Q1. But for Oliver Behrman, like I said, if he nails his lap, no reason why he can't get into Q3. Racing Bulls, unfortunately, they're one of the slowest midfield teams, and that's because their car is only really good at power-dominant circuits like the last one we went to in Montreal. Street circuits like Monaco is just not good for their car. Alpine, not a great weekend so far, but they're still right in action, right in play. And again, you cannot count Pierre Gasly out. He has always been very quick here. And the Alpine, I think, is quick enough that if he also, like Behrman, they're in very similar situations, if they can nail their laps, then there's no reason why they can't be in the top 10. So, Gasly, watch out for him. Also, keep Ryan Colapinto, who in the last couple weekends has been one of the surprise star performers. Williams, I think they're in the fight to make the top 10, but they are the least likely of the teams like Audi, Alpine, and Haas, and then obviously them, to make the top 10, because their car fundamentally is still a bit too overweight, and the car generally just doesn't have the downforce to, I think, get into the top 10. Both drivers, though, been lapping, well, doing good lap times. Carlos Sainz performing well. He's another driver who's very good here in Monaco. But I think they probably miss out. But if they can get in, say, 11th or 12th somehow, that would be a very good result. And maybe, if they get a bit of luck, can get a point on Sunday. Aston Martin, like I said earlier, diarrhea. That's what their car is. There is nothing good about it. And for Cadillac, I am sensing a small chance of making Q2 with Sergio Perez. We know Perez is good around here. He's obviously won this Grand Prix 4 years ago. He's had podiums here before with Force India. Cadillac are close enough to the back of the midfield where if certain drivers mess up their laps and Perez nails his, it's not impossible. I'd say it's a 5 to 10% chance, probably, of making Q2, but there is a chance. So keep your eye on Sergio Perez in the Cadillac because it is not impossible. But here is a reminder of my final top 10 prediction for qualifying. Charles Leclerc, I think, will take pole position, with Lewis Hamilton second, Antonelli third, Verstappen fourth, Russell fifth, Hadjar sixth, and then Norris, Piastri, Hulkenberg, and Gasly rounding out the top 10. And again, let me know, what are your predictions as we are just over 15 minutes away from one of the most exciting parts of a Formula One season. And remember, one of the best qualifying sessions we ever had was here in Monaco, and that was only 3 years ago in 2023. What a session that was, where the last, 90 seconds or 2 minutes of that session, we had 4 different teams on pole at one point. We had, Leclerc, and then Ocon in the Alpine. Oh, God, wow. I remember when he did that lap, I lost my mind. And then Alonso, of course, beat that. And then Max put in one of the best laps of his career to take pole. So this is not a qualifying session you want to miss, especially today with it being pretty close and competitive through the field. Vanilla Bloom says, what is the chance that Antonelli takes pole? I'd say 30 to 40%. That's a decent chance, but he's not the favourite. Leclerc or Hamilton, I think, are the two main favourites here. But, if Antonelli can get pole and then turn that into a victory, which, I mean, if you get pole, you are going to turn it into a victory unless something goes disastrously wrong, like I said earlier. Then how on earth do you stop Antonelli in the championship? I really don't know at that point, because if Antonelli wins here, Mercedes at the next Grand Prix in Barcelona are going to be the quickest team probably there, and he probably wins there as well. So, yeah, this is a great chance, at least for the Ferrari drivers, to put a stop to Mercedes' dominance and to maybe generate their own run of form. Will F1 earlier, in regards to me talking about Daniel Ricciardo, said, Ricciardo had a 13-second pit stop. So, 10 seconds he wasted. Or not he wasted, but Red Bull wasted. Yeah, it was such a shame. I remember at the time being so disappointed for Daniel, because he did everything right in that whole weekend and Red Bull screwed him over. Thankfully, though, he did get his win that season in Malaysia, which was a really amazing win as well. A great battle he had with his teammate Verstappen. But let's get through some of your final comments before we get into this session. Senna versus Mansell in 92 is the best Monaco Grand Prix ever, or certainly close to it. In terms of dry Monaco races, maybe. I think the best dry Monaco race I can remember is a 2011 one. That race was crazy. So many incidents and memorable moments in that race. I think that's, for me, probably the best dry Monaco race. But overall, the best Monaco Grand Prix that I've ever seen, dry or wet, would have to be 2008. It was just mayhem. Just one of those races where literally anything could have happened. I mean, you had Adrian Sutil in the Force India, which at the time was the worst car on the grid by far, up in, what was it, like 4th place with a few laps to go. And then Kimi Raikkonen, of course, made a mistake and slammed into the back of him and took him out of the race. One of the biggest heartbreaks we've had here in Monaco. We've had a lot of heartbreaking moments here. Obviously, Damon Hill retiring from the lead in 96, 30 years ago that was. Obviously, the reason that was such a big heartbreak was because his dad obviously won this race. And it was the one he wanted to win the most, but his car robbed him of that. But let's see if I can find some other comments here. Vettel Hamilton saying, do you think Ocon has been the worst driver this year? Or he's asking someone else. I wouldn't say, I don't know what Will thinks, but personally, I don't think Ocon has been the worst. The worst, I think, pretty clearly has been Valtteri Bottas, who is here on a jolly, quite frankly. He's here for a good time, definitely not a long time. But if he can add some, some really good insight for Cadillac and really good advice that helps them improve, then great. But if Cadillac actually want, especially later this season, if Cadillac get into a position where they can actually start fighting in the midfield and maybe even think about fighting for points, they've got to get rid of Bottas because he is a complete passenger in that car. And yeah, I've heard Colton Herta as a possibility. Pato O'Ward maybe. I don't know. Maybe they are likely options for them. But I think, Sergio Perez, I think, at Cadillac, the one thing I'm really encouraged by with Perez is it does feel like Perez is back to his best levels. He seems happy. Cadillac very happy with him. He's the clear leader of that team right now. But if Cadillac can find a driver who will be quicker than Perez, get him in the car, because they need, especially if they do get to a point later this season, which you'd hope they probably will, where they can fight the back end of the midfield a bit. They need as much lap time gain from the drivers as they can get to find out, true potential of their car. So, yeah. Maybe we'll see Cadillac making a swap there. But how long have we got? Just under 10 more minutes. Wasn't it an unforced error that robbed Leclerc of a home win 2017-18-ish? He looked so devastated looking up at the trophy presentation. That was 2021. Yeah, he finished first in qualifying, and then he never got to start the race because there was an issue which I think was caused by his collision, or not collision, but his crash that he had at the end of qualifying. Astro asking thoughts or rumors about Ocon being dropped mid-season. Chaz, I would love to see Jack Doohan get a proper go. I don't think Doohan. I don't think you're going to see Doohan again in Formula One. Unfortunately, he's not good enough. I'm afraid. Doohan will be great in WEC. That will be where he is best optimized. But Formula One, he's just not good enough to be on the grid. I'm afraid. I don't think Ocon's going to get replaced mid-season because I don't think Haas are in desperate need of doing that. Especially with where they are in the championship. Haas are 7th in the championship. If they finish there, even with Ocon being a few tenths off his teammate, I don't think Haas will be that bothered, enough, say, to replace him mid-season. If Haas's car improves to the point, though, where they think they can finish 5th, then I think that maybe they'll replace him to try and maximise, their potential. But I think he'll complete the season. But I think, whether it's this season or next season, Ocon he's in the, I think I said it in one of my podcast episodes a couple weeks ago, he is circling the drain of his Formula One career. And I think either this season or next season will be his last season because he looks a shadow of what he was. I mean, even 3-4 years ago, he was one of the top, I think, 10 best drivers in Formula One. I don't think you could really argue against that. He was, a big reason why Alpine finished 4th in the championship in 2022. He wasn't, in my view, as good as Alonso over the couple years they were teammates, but he was pretty close to him and won a race, had a podium, a couple podiums. So, yeah, I thought he did overall great. Did Ocon, but yeah, he just isn't that driver anymore. So, if he gets replaced at the end of the season by, I don't know, someone, then I would not be surprised at all. And to be honest, I think if Ocon continues this level of performance, I think Haas should already be looking for a replacement to come in for the start of next season. Whoever that replacement should be is up for debate. I think probably if I was Haas, I would go for a younger driver because Oliver Bearman has proven to be, easily good enough for Formula One. He is arguably right now one of the top 10 best drivers in Formula One and is the clear team leader. I think, though, they need to be looking towards the future because Bearman is not going to be at Haas for very long. Bearman, I think if he doesn't end up at Ferrari in the next couple of years, I think one of the bigger teams is going to snap him up. So they need to be looking towards the future. So I don't know exactly who they would go for, but they need to go with if they could try and find the next. I wouldn't say big talent, but the next young driver that's going to be a success in F1, then I think they should go and look for that person and get that person in. Maybe do they take a risk on an Alex Dunn, or is he too much of a risk, or do they go for an American like Colton Herta or Pato O'Ward? Or do they open up the checkbook and go for Alex Palou? We'll have to see. But I think whoever they replace Ocon with, it shouldn't be another experienced driver. It should be someone who's, a view to the future. Put it that way. Anyway, thanks for your comments. But it is now time to get into qualifying in Monte Carlo. But before we do, a quick reminder of your championship standings, which of course are important. Kimi Antonelli coming into this Grand Prix weekend is 43 points clear of his teammate George Russell. Charles Leclerc in third, Lewis Hamilton in fourth. Leclerc and Hamilton not that far behind Russell, but as you can see, Ferrari really and their two drivers need to have the best weekend possible, especially if they've got any aspirations of a drivers' championship this year. Lando Norris then in fifth. Piastri 10 points behind him in sixth. Max Verstappen only 5 points behind Piastri in seventh. Then a bit of a drop off to Pierre Gasly, now in eighth place after the last Grand Prix. Oliver Behrman in ninth and Liam Lawson still in the top 10 of the championship. What a season the Kiwi is having. And on the constructors' side, Mercedes in the lead, but Ferrari closing the gap. And if they have a great weekend this weekend, Ferrari might not be that far behind going into the next Grand Prix. McLaren in third, Red Bull then in fourth, Alpine now up to, or not up to, but in fifth and a comfortable fifth. 14 points clear of the next team being now Racing Bulls, who've climbed up to sixth after the last Grand Prix. Haas in seventh, Williams couple points further ahead of Audi and still in eighth. Audi down in ninth, desperately need a strong weekend. And then Cadillac in 10th and Aston Martin still last in the championship. But Q1 will be underway very, very soon. In the next, couple minutes. And of course, I'll sync up the timer at the 17-minute mark. It's an 18-minute long session, and we will be knocking out the 6 slowest cars, which 3 of them, well, 4 of them pretty much, we know are going to be the 2 Cadillacs and 2 Aston Martins, but who will be the other 2? I think Esteban Ocon, decent chance he'll be one of them. And the other one, probably a Racing Bull car. If I was to, if you were to nail me down to a prediction, I'd probably say the other 2 eliminations will probably be Lindblad and Ocon. But we've had multiple surprises here before in qualifying. I remember a few years ago, Charles Leclerc himself was knocked out in Q1. And not only was he knocked out in Q1, he was knocked out by his teammate, Sebastian Vettel. What a absolute shit show it was that weekend for Ferrari and Leclerc. Only did a few laps before colliding with the wall and then exiting the race. But if you are a front runner and you get eliminated in Q1, your weekend is done. There is no way to repair that damage unless you get massively fortunate in the race somehow. But it's as we saw with the 2 Mercedes cars last year, where they one of them had a reliability issue and the other one crashed. If you are way out of position, there's nothing really you can do because it is just impossible to pass here. Which is why qualifying is so important. As the green light comes onto the exit of the pit lane and qualifying has begun in Monte Carlo. As first couple cars just coming out, one of them a Cadillac. The Mercedes cars obviously still in the garage. Pole position today probably will be a low 1 minute 12. In Q1, I'm expecting the best lap time to probably be a probably anywhere between a 112.5 and a 112.8, probably at quickest. But to get into Q2, you're going to have to do probably a 113, say 7 or better. Of course, there will be drivers who do even slower lap times than that and get in. But if you want to absolutely make sure of your progression, then yeah, 113.7 or better, I think, is good enough to get into Q2, which of course is the aim for all the drivers in this part of the session. As now some of the front runners are coming out onto the circuit. And the two Ferraris, the favourites, the ones that everyone are looking out for here in Monaco. And Ferrari, so many times in the last few years here in Monaco, have been the team to really look out for. They took pole here 2 years ago and converted that into victory. Locked out the front row in 2022, but somehow threw it away. 2021 should have started on pole. And then a few years before that, they did lock out the front row and convert that into a 1-2 finish as well with Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Raikkonen. That was 9 years ago. And that was probably the best point of this Ferrari title drought, was that Grand Prix weekend, because when Vettel won, he was, I think, over 30 points clear of Hamilton. And that was as good as it got, really. Especially during that era. As Hamilton is complaining on the radio that Leclerc is backing into him. As Sergio Perez has just completed the first lap time of the session. And then Valtteri Bottas has gone second. And Colapinto, interestingly, has only gone into third and Pierre Gasly fourth. But I don't think these laps are actually that competitive. I think they're probably just warm-up laps. We have seen a lot already with this this season. These tyres do need a warm-up lap quite regularly before you actually let go and go for it. As Pierre Gasly completes the first sector, but the first sector is quite slow from him, a 20.5. That is, I think, about a second off the pace that you really should be doing in the first sector. But that's, of course, if you've got a front-running car. But for a midfield runner, you'd expect it to still be the 119, not the 119, the 19 second barrier. As Oliver Behrman, just behind Gasly, is going much quicker. A couple seconds quicker. He's done a purple middle sector as Behrman, and now Gasly holding Behrman up to an extent. But Behrman is about to go quickest, I'm pretty sure. And he does with a 1:15.9, which is quite slow. That's at least a couple seconds away from the, I think, yeah, at least a couple seconds from really what you want to be doing in this part of the session, as that is a replay of an Alpine having a bit of a moment at the exit of the Casino Square section, as Arvid Lindblad is up to second. Not anymore. He's been replaced by teammate Liam Lawson, who is having a fantastic season. Been in the top 10 of the championship, I think, for the entire season. Nobody expected that. as Charles Leclerc is doing a brilliant lap here. First lap of qualifying, 2 purple sectors as Lando Norris goes quickest on a 1:14.2. Charles Leclerc goes a tenth and a half quicker to a 1:14.1. Again, though, these lap times are a good, well, for Leclerc, at least a second away from what would be acceptable. So these are just banker laps, getting some confidence in other drivers. As Norris is second, Lewis Hamilton is up to third. Oscar Piastri goes fifth. As Antonelli now goes up to P3. And Russell only 10th on a 1:15.7. George Russell, by the way, is someone who obviously needs a big session here, but historically speaking, as Bortoletto goes fifth, historically speaking, he's never really been that great here in Monaco. He's always been like the top 5, 6 on the grid, but never like in the fight for pole. I mean, he's never had great cars here, but I don't feel like this is a particularly great circuit for him, so I'm not really that surprised that he's off the pace. As Max Verstappen is just in a purple first sector. As Hulkenberg is in 6th, Audi 5th and 6th currently. And then you've got Piastri in 7th. Carlos Sainz is up to 8th. As Isaac Hadjar now goes 9th for Red Bull. And then you've got Esteban Ocon in 10th. With teammate Behrman 11th. And then Lawson 12th. Gasly 13th. George Russell is only 14th with that lap. And now down to 15th as Arvid Lindblad goes up to P12 ahead of his teammate. As Max Verstappen goes 5th on a 1:14.5. As, hold on a sec. Let me just, yeah, there you go. Verstappen up there now. As this is a replay of, is it Max being held up by a Racing Bull car? As Lando Norris now goes quickest on a 1:13.7. Charles Leclerc goes 4 tenths quicker than that to a 1:13.3. So, yeah, getting a lot closer to what should be the best lap times in this session. Isaac Hadjar now up to 6th. As Piastri goes 3rd. 7.5 tenths off the pace, though, Piastri with that lap. As Esteban Ocon does a lap and stays in 11th place. But your top 10 currently is Leclerc, Norris, Piastri, Antonelli, and then Hamilton, Verstappen, Hadjar, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, and Sainz. And then you've got Ocon, Behrman, Lindblad, Lawson, Gasly, Russell. And in the drop zone, it is Colapinto, Alonso. Well, now actually it has changed because Alex Albon has gone up to 15th. So now it's George Russell in the drop zone in 17th. Colapinto 18th. Alonso 19th. And then Sergio Perez 20th. Stroll 21st. Bottas 22nd. And yeah, George Russell, of course, needs to improve his lap. As we're looking at his teammate Antonelli, who is on a much improved lap, but it's not going to put him quickest or anything. As he comes through Ras Kass, Lewis Hamilton has a purple middle sector. Hamilton might end up 2nd by the end of his lap. He's 3 tenths off his teammate at the minute. as Antonelli goes, position higher up to third. Max Verstappen goes fourth. And Hamilton, bit of a drop off in the final sector, goes third. Here is George Russell, currently 17th. Surely this will be a massive improvement from him. Position-wise it is, but it's only 10th. And lap time-wise, he is... replay there of Antonelli having a snap of oversteer on the exit of... or going into the swimming pool section on the exit of the back. But yeah, Russell is almost a second slower than his teammate. And that lap time he's done, a 1:14.7, is nowhere near good enough. He will have to improve on that. As Hadjar improves his lap time but stays in 7th. Lando Norris is on a new lap. Yeah, Russell, I think it's pretty clear to see, and even from what you hear from what he's saying in interviews, he is not happy or confident right now. He pretty much thinks everything's against him, especially after the last Grand Prix. And has already been saying that the championship was Antonelli's to lose. So, yeah, Russell letting it all go against him. But he needs to push through this if he's going to have any chance of the championship. As Norris, not the greatest exit from the swimming pool. Very nearly clipped the barrier on the exit. Lucky to get away with that. But Lando Norris, who of course took pole and won this Grand Prix last year, proves his lap time but stays in 2nd. As Leclerc's in a purple middle sector. As Colapinto improves up to 14th. Alpine not very quick right now. 14th and 18th for them. As Leclerc improves his lap time by a 10th. To 1:13.2. As Antonelli is on an improved lap. Purple first sector for the young Italian who leads the championship. But Antonelli's middle sector has not been good at all. But still, up front, I still think they're a few tenths away from the best times they could be doing at this part of the session. So I'm not sure if they're sandbagging to a degree or the track maybe will improve a lot in these final few minutes. As Max Verstappen now goes up to 2nd, 1:13.4, only a couple tenths behind Leclerc. Here comes George Russell. 8 tenths off Leclerc after the first 2 sectors. Yeah, he is not quick today. As Arvid Lindblad, what a lap from him. He goes up to 9th. But Russell, currently 11th. This is an improved lap, but still not quick. He goes 7th onto a 1:14.2. I still don't think that's a comfortable lap time. As Liam Lawson goes 9th, because I still think this track is going to really ramp up a lot in terms of grip. As Alonso goes 17th for Aston Martin. Drop zone with 3.5 minutes to go. Alonso, Albon, Gasly, Perez, Stroll, Bottas. Gasly being eliminated would sure be a surprise. Saying that, Alpine don't look very quick at the minute. Colapinto is only 16th. As Lewis Hamilton, bit of a scruffy run on the exit of the swimming pool section. As Esteban Ocon improves up to 12th place. Pierre Gasly now goes up to 9th. That's a lot more like it. As Nico Hülkenberg improves up to 6th. Very good lap from Hulk. As we're looking here at Valtteri Bottas. A man who started on the front row here 5 years ago. Wasn't able to finish the race though, because his wheel or his tyre literally would not come off at a pit stop. As Bottas goes up to 19th. We've got a yellow flag out there. And there it is. It's an Audi. It's Bortoletto at the Nouvelle Chicane. I don't know if he is... Yeah, he has crashed. And yet, red flag with 2 minutes and 11 seconds remaining of Bortoletto. I reckon he's clipped the inside barrier of the Nouvelle Chicane. Right when you turn left into the chicane, I reckon he's hit the barrier. Broke the suspension. That's what it looks like. Here we go. Yeah, that's exactly what he did. He broke the suspension arm on the barrier. Very small clip, I must say. It wasn't a large hit against that barrier, but small enough, or small but big enough of a clip to where he is out of the session. And, well, he's currently 14th, so once the session gets underway, he won't be getting into Q2 anyway. So, yeah, he is going to end up at best probably in, 19th? Sergio Perez, by the way, right before that red flag, went up to 17th place. So, Perez up to 17th. Oliver Bearman is down in 18th. Which is a massive surprise. You got Carlos Sainz as well, down in 19th. Alex Albon has improved and got himself into 9th place as Albon. So let me just correct the order. So the current top 10 with 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go in Q1. It is Leclerc, Verstappen, Antonelli, Norris, Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Piastri, Russell, Albon, and Hadjar. And then from 11th down to 16th, the drivers who are making it in at the moment are Gasly, Lawson, Colapinto, and then Bortoletto, Lindblad, and Ocon. And then Perez is the first man in the drop zone. Oh, Sergio Perez, though, is only 0.025 of a second away from Ocon in 16th. So Sergio Perez, he very well could get into Q2 here. If he pulls out a good final lap, he might just sneak into Q2, which would be by far the best qualifying result of all time for Cadillac, as both Cadillacs already released from their garage and are already queued up at the exit of the pit lane, as we'll be back underway shortly. But yeah, in the drop zone, it's Perez 17th, as the session will be back underway in 3 minutes' time, it says. Perez 17th, Bearman in 18th. That's a massive shock if Bearman gets knocked out in 18th. Sainz 19th, Bottas 20th, and then Aston Martin 21st and 22nd with Alonso and Stroll. So 2 minutes and 11 seconds to go. When the session gets back underway, I'll sync up the timer at the 2-minute mark. And it will be just one run. One run for all the teams. And if the track, in terms of the improvement in lap time, if it's massive, we could get a couple drivers really caught out here. But yeah, we have just over 90 seconds to go until we're back underway. And yeah, disappointing from Bortoleto. That's a simple error that a driver of his quality shouldn't be making. It's easy error to make for us mortals, but yeah, for Formula One drivers, that's just something you can't do. And it's especially disappointing because Audi are genuinely really quick. Hulkenberg's up in 6th. Audi are pretty comfortably the fastest midfield team, and now they're going to have one car starting, what, 20th probably on the grid, 21st. So, yeah, that's really disappointing from Bortoleto. So now they're going to pin all their hopes, Audi, on Hulkenberg. If he just keeps it together through the session, he should surely get into the top 10. As we're looking at the visor cam of Oscar Piastri. And Lewis Hamilton there in the garage. Ferrari, Hamilton there's on a 113.7. I don't think the top 5 cars of Leclerc, Verstappen, Antonelli, Norris, and Hamilton, I don't think any of them need to go out again, to be honest. But they probably will, just for, to get another lap in and get some more confidence in. As there you go. Green flag on. Or the green light on. And we are back underway in Monaco. 2 minutes to go in Q1. Will we get a big surprise? Can Cadillac get into Q2 for the first time in their Formula One history? We are about to find out. But yeah, I'm expecting a massive track evolution on this final lap, which you normally do get around street circuits, especially on hot days like this, on the streets of Monte Carlo. As we are looking at now a Racing Bull car stopped in the pit lane. Liam Lawson, luckily it won't cause any delay to the session, but looks like Lawson for some reason can't get going, which is a shame because he's currently P12 and he's only 3/10 ahead of the drop zone, so he's not safe by any means. As we're looking here at Sergio Perez, who I presume is on a quali lap. He has to be, because if he's not, then he's already out of the session because there's only just over 20 seconds left. But unfortunately, we're not seeing any sector time data. So I can't tell you how good his first sector was. But yeah, he is on a final push lap. He's done miracles here in Monaco before. Can he do another one in these final few seconds? As the checkered flag falls, these are your final laps of Q1. Who will make it into the second part of qualifying? As we're looking at the wrong car, quite frankly, of Valtteri Bottas. Who I think is on improved lap, but I don't think he's anywhere near getting into Q2. As Oliver Behrman, after the first 2 sectors, he's half a tenth down on his teammate. As Bottas finishes up in 20th. And Behrman, this final sector needs to be special, because if it's not, he's going to be eliminated here in Q1. As here comes Oliver Behrman. And he is. He's out in 18th. What a disaster. And Haas's weekend is over, quite frankly. As here comes Carlos Sainz. Can he drag himself out? Yes, he can. Carlos Sainz is up to 10th place What a lap by the Spaniard. But yeah, no one else improved, meaning that both Haas's are out in Q1. What a complete disaster. Sorry for the pun, but it had to be made. 17th and 19th. Who thought it would be as bad as that? As, yeah, Behrman, they're just showing a replay of his lap, and yeah, lots of oversteer, pushing too hard. And ultimately not good enough. So that is Q1, guys, over and done with. Let's go through your drivers who have made it into the second part of qualifying. Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Nico Hülkenberg, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Alex Albon, Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar, Pierre Gasly, Liam Lawson, Franco Colapinto, Gabriel Bortoleto just about makes it through despite crashing out, and Arvid Lindblad on his debut in Monaco makes it through, but knocked out in Q1, Esteban Ocon, Sergio Perez, Oliver Behrman, Valtteri Bottas, Fernando Alonso, and Lance Stroll. And Q2 will be underway in about 2 or 3 minutes' time. Quite a headline list of drivers, by the way, that were eliminated from that session, because all of them have got, have had podiums here before. Ocon was on the podium here 3 years ago. Perez obviously won this race 4 years ago. Valtteri Bottas was on the podium here for Mercedes in 2019. And of course, Fernando Alonso won this race 20 years ago for Renault in that infamous weekend where Michael Schumacher decided to invent a car park in Q3 at Rascasse. And then Alonso, once Schumacher was rightly disqualified, Alonso won. And then obviously the year later, Alonso won as well in 2007. So yeah, quite a headline list. 2 previous race winners of this Grand Prix out in Q1 just shows you how stacked the Formula One field is. But yeah, that's your Q1 done with. And yeah, Q2 will be knocking out the next 6 slowest cars. Bortoleto obviously is out, so all we're going to be knocking out is a further 5 drivers. And you would imagine the 2 Racing Bull cars probably will get eliminated. Yeah, Racing Bulls just are not good around these type of circuits. And then I think one of the Alpines will be eliminated as well. So it's really between the 2 Williamses of Albon and Sainz, Hülkenberg in the Audi, and Gasly, I would say, in the Alpine as to who out of the midfield makes it into Q3. And Isaac Hadjar did end up in 11th, but I'm pretty confident he'll make it in. The Red Bull is easily good enough. As I just shown a replay on Sky of Bortoleto how he broke his suspension arm. And yeah, it was just the lightest clip of the inside barrier, but enough. From the moment I saw where Bortoleto's car was, I knew that's what happened. And I called it straight away. And then we saw a replay that confirmed it. As we're now seeing a replay of Oliver Behrman. And yeah, his final lap was just plagued by oversteer. Seemed just a bit too trigger happy on the throttle. Maybe felt the pressure a bit of having to, drag this car into Q2, even though it should get into Q2. But yeah, Haas's weekend is over. 17th and 19th. May as well pack up and go home at that point, because they're just going to be stuck in a massive train, hoping for a miracle, which is basically what everyone does outside of the top 10 in Monaco. But I will say, even though Haas scored points at the last race in Canada, since Miami, they have not been the same team. Start the season, they had genuinely one of the best midfield cars. But yeah, since that Miami race a month ago, they are not the same. They are not the same team. In terms of pure performance, Alpine, Audi are definitely quicker than them. And even Williams look like they're probably quicker than them at this point. So I know Ao Komatsu, the team boss of Haas, he did say during the Miami weekend that the upgrades they brought just didn't work, and that they're gonna have to figure out a solution. So I think that's what's caused it, but they cannot they cannot let it affect them too much, because they've got fundamentally a really good car for the midfield. They just need to develop it properly. But yeah, Q2 underway right now. Green light goes on at the exit of the pit lane, and we are underway. I'll get the timer synced up on screen at the 14-minute mark. But yeah, Bortoletto we know is out, so we'll knock out a further 5 drivers. As here is a replay of Max Verstappen, presumably having or someone unsafe released into his path. It was a Williams. As Max says on the radio, yeah, what the fuck, mate? Williams mechanic, what an idiot. It was Sainz, the car that was released into Max's path. But Max is all good and having a decent weekend still. Second he was in Q1. Fastest lap time in Q1 was 1:13.2, was it? So I still think we are on course to have a low 1:12 lap time for pole position, because I think we'll see quite a bit of an improvement towards the end of this session. As the 2 Mercedes cars now come out of the garage. As we look at Verstappen on... Is this a push lap or an out lap? I'm not quite sure. As he comes out of Anthony Nogues. And I think that was him just pushing towards the end of an out lap. It was. Let's see what Max can do here at the start of Q2. He very well can, a lot of the time, just bang in a really stunning time that makes you think, wow. Can he do so here? First sector is not that good, though. As Verstappen through the couple right-hand slow corners before you get into the tunnel. And Verstappen, I think, weaving around slightly there, so clearly not quite happy with the tyre warm-up on the Red Bull, and he's backed off. We did see it in Montreal. I mean, it was a lot colder. Was it, yeah, I'd probably, yeah, in qualifying it was, yeah. It was a bit cooler in Montreal on qualifying day than it is here in Monaco. But yeah, we did see the Red Bull. It had good pace, but they did struggle with tyre warm-up, which is why they couldn't show that good pace in Q3. So I'm wondering if that might still be an issue for them, as Pierre Gasly has gone quickest, but, well, 1:20.2, that's very slow, so these are not proper lap times. but I'll update the order anyway. As Lawson does an outlap and goes second, as Max is on another push lap. And let's see, as Charles Leclerc goes quickest from Lewis Hamilton second, but I don't know if they've done a particular lap time. As Verstappen coming through Raskas, and now Anthony Nogues to complete his first proper run of Q2, and it is a 1:13.2. That is the fastest lap time of qualifying so far. Remember though, we still haven't got close to the fastest lap time of the weekend so far. The fastest lap time of the weekend was from Kimi Antonelli in practice 3 at 1:12.7. So we're still half a second away from that, which is just proof that there is still a lot more to be shown by these front-running teams. As Leclerc and Verstappen going quicker, or no, Leclerc and Hamilton going quicker than Verstappen. Leclerc goes quickest at 1:12.9. That's a lot more like it. But here comes Lewis Hamilton. Can he go even quicker? No, he goes a tenth and a half slower into second. But then Oscar Piastri, interestingly, goes up to second place. Where's that pace come from? As Lando Norris now goes quickest with a 1:12.9, 9 thousandths of a second quicker than Leclerc. That is by far the quickest lap times that McLaren have done all weekend. They've been regularly in the latter part of the 1:13s, and they've just banged it in the 1:12s, as so has Antonelli, who matches his, and not just his, but the best lap time of the weekend so far. A 1:12.7. Antonelli goes quickest. So it's Antonelli from Norris, and then Leclerc, Piastri, Hamilton, and then Hajar in 6th. Verstappen 7th, but Max is on a better lap. And it's just in a purple first sector. Russell only 8th and 9.5 tenths slower than his teammate. So Russell, again, struggling a lot. Carlos Sainz currently in 9th. What a lap by him so far. Hulkenberg 10th. And then you've got Lawson in 11th. Gasly 12th. Lindblad 13th. Albon 14th. Colapinto 15th. As Verstappen, yeah, much better lap. And he's only a 10th off Antonelli after the first 2 sectors. Can he somehow get ahead of those McLarens and Ferraris to put it second? Be very impressed if he does. He comes to the line. He does go second. Does a purple final sector. Very impressive from Max Verstappen. Only half a tenth off Antonelli. As both racing bull cars on better laps. Here is Liam Lawson, who goes 9th. With a 1:13.8. Arvid Lindblad is about to cross the line as Albon goes 12th. Lindblad stays in 14th. As Lando Norris is on an improved lap. As Norris stays 3rd. But yeah, only a tenth and a half off Antonelli. That's a lot better from McLaren. By the way, apologies if I just disconnected briefly. As Russell, who's been struggling so far, what is this lap time? It's half a second off, but it's a much better lap time, but 5.5 tenths away. As Antonelli improves further by almost a full tenth. It's now at the lap time a 1:12.704. But here come the Ferraris. Leclerc 2/10 up on Antonelli after the middle sector. This is where Ferrari are now beginning to show their true hand as the Ferrari dances its way through the final couple corners to the line. Loses a lot in that final sector and only goes second, but the potential is there. The Ferrari, when they hook up all the sectors, I'm sure that Ferrari is quick enough to be the quickest. But yeah, Russell still just over half a second away from his teammate and currently 8th. Russell has got to pick this up because his championship is falling apart at the seams. I know he's only already 43 points behind, but if he ends up qualifying 7th or 8th and Antonelli ends up on the front row, or even worse for him, pole position, then yeah, Russell's championship hopes will be almost over. As Hamilton here is on another lap, but I'm not sure if it's going to be an improvement, and Hamilton backs off. Bit of smoke coming out the back of Hamilton's car. Don't know if that's just oil overfill there on the Ferrari, but that didn't look great. And yeah, you can still see smoke, or I don't know if it's steam. But yeah, that gave me a bit of a scare there. As we now look at Piastri, currently in 5th, 3.5 tenths off the pace. Let's see what Oscar can do and whether he can improve on his lap time. Good middle sector, only a 1/10.5 off Antonelli. Might be able to get ahead of his teammate here, but it is very close in those front 4 positions on lap time. Only a 1/10.5 separating the front 4. Piastri, good exit from the final corner. And no, he stays 5th, but does get closer in lap time. As Colapinto, with 3.5 minutes to go in Q2, is on a new and improved lap, and so is his teammate Pierre Gasly. Gasly already a 10th quicker than Colapinto in just the first sector alone. As Colapinto brakes hard now for the Nouvelle chicane. These cars, not quite as clumsy around these streets as the old generation of cars. And I think, visibly by watching the cars, these cars look better around Monaco. They're more nimble, smaller, and just, yeah, they just look better around a street circuit compared to the old, the ground effect cars we had. As Colapinto races to the line and improves, but only goes to P12. Where did his teammate go? Gasly goes 9th. Big improvement for Gasly. Can he stay there? As Hülkenberg is now ahead of Sainz, but Hülkenberg still in the drop zone. Surely Audi are not going to miss Q3 after having such a good weekend to this point. Here's Liam Lawson, though, who is having a great season and continues to impress. He's currently in 10th, and he's on an improved lap. And yeah, this is looking like a very good lap for Lawson. He gets through Raskas just fine. Now through the final corner, gets very close to the wall, to the line. He goes 9th and improves by 0.3 of a second. What a lap that is. And I think that he's nearly half a second clear of Hülkenberg. I think he might have just done a good enough lap there to get himself into Q3. What a lap by Lawson. And again, what a season he is having. The season of his life. as we look at George Russell on another lap. Just over a minute to go in Q2. As the camera there having an accident of his own. As Russell looking a lot better on this lap, but his teammate behind improving a lot. And wow, Antonelli has just done a very strong middle sector, nearly 3/10 up on his previous best. As Russell 13-2, he stays in 8th. Piastri stays 5th, but watch out for this lap from Kimi Antonelli. Oh no, he messes up the final sector and he goes slower than he did before, but that was promising to be an amazing lap. And talking of amazing laps, Max Verstappen goes quickest with a 1:12.4. Where did that come from? And that is a marker laid down for qualifying 3, which is coming up very shortly. As Carlos Sainz goes 11th, he's out. Alex Albon, only 11th. Both Williamses are out. Here's Isaac Hadjar. What can he do? He goes 3rd. Red Bull, so quick. As we now look at Lewis Hamilton, who is on a better lap. As Colapinto has met the checkered flag, so he's out as well. Hamilton only improves up to 6th. Arvid Lindblad stays 15th. Not really a surprise. He hasn't got much experience here in Monaco. Is Nico Hülkenberg on another lap? No, he's pitted. What a disappointment for Audi. 13th and 16th after the weekend they've had. Disaster. But there you go. That is Q2 over and done with. And wow, what a lap time from Max Verstappen. Can he do what would be unthinkable, really, given the running so far and also what's happened this season? Can he take pole? If he does, the championship is absolutely on for Max this season. But let's go through your drivers who have made it to the top 10 shootout. Max Verstappen, Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar, Charles Leclerc, Lando Norris, Lewis Hamilton, Oscar Piastri, George Russell, Liam Lawson, and Pierre Gasly. Well done to Lawson and Gasly. Brilliant laps from them. And knocked out in Q2, Alexander Albon, Carlos Sainz, Nico Hülkenberg, Franco Colapinto, Arvid Lindblad, and Gabriel Bortoleto. And Q3 will be underway in about 3-4 minutes from now. But that lap from Verstappen has got me excited for what we could be in for in this final few minutes of qualifying. That was a stunning lap. Especially given that we've still got another few minutes to go. So can he and also other drivers out there find even more lap time and produce a stunning lap to take pole? We will find out. But in regards to the drivers knocked out in Q2, Williams, 11th and 12th, I think they'll be happy with that. Even though they didn't make the top 10. I don't think they had the car to make the top 10, quite frankly. But Albon, especially, he will be happy to be ahead of his teammate. That's a lot more like it from him. Hülkenberg, though, and Audi in general, just... where is it going wrong? They have had a decent car this season, but they just, when it matters, they just can't perform and get the results. That's why they're ninth in the championship. They've been quicker in pretty much all the races this season compared to Williams, but Williams are ahead of them because Williams, when it matters, get pretty much the best results they can. But Audi are the complete opposite. So, yeah, I'm just really disappointed with Audi this season so far. And I think what's even more disappointing with them is that it's not like they're really like they're far off the pace or anything. They've got a good car. They've got a good midfield car. But they just cannot perform again when it matters to get the results that really they should be getting. And that's why they are where they're at. And, you know, I'm sure they will make improvements as the season goes on. Obviously, they've got a lot of resources at hand, but they've got to start, you know, actually meeting their potential on track, because this is just too much now. But let me just quickly clear my nose, and I'll be back in a sec. As Q3, guys, is only a couple more minutes away. And I'm very excited for this, because I think we're in for a really great end to qualifying here. We have got potentially 4 or 5 different drivers who could take pole position. But of course, before we get into things, let me just quickly finish up the poll results in the chat. And thank you, by the way, so much for so many votes. Just over 2,000 votes we've had on the poll, where I asked you guys who will take pole position today in Monaco. And 44% of you selected Charles Leclerc. So that's the number one, the winner of the poll. Lewis Hamilton is second with 24%, and then Verstappen and Antonelli level on 16%. I still believe Leclerc will take pole. I'm not sure I believe anymore that Ferrari will necessarily look out the front row. But, yeah, I think Leclerc will still take pole. He's done it here before. He's got the experience. It's all down to whether Leclerc can, just deliver the lap. As we are now just under 30 seconds away from the start of Q3. And in terms of qualifying, these next few minutes are the most important minutes of a qualifying session you'll get in a Formula One season. The pole position, they all want, which leads very often to the race win, they all want. And there you go, green light is on, and we are underway for the final 13 minutes of qualifying. Who will take the most coveted pole position of them all? Last year it was Lando Norris, the year before it was Charles Leclerc, the year before that it was Max Verstappen. It is always a very competitive fight for pole, but only one can win it. As we see the two Mercedes cars just coming out of the garage, coming out of the pit lane, coming to the exit now of the pit lane. As they come out onto the circuit, as we're looking at the McLaren of Lando Norris. McLaren, still, they didn't end up with a great position or result from Q2 in the end, but on pure lap time, they were a lot quicker than we expected. So can they keep that up, or will they ultimately end up being the slowest of the 4 teams? I think they still will end up being the slowest of the 4 teams, but maybe we'll be a bit closer on lap time. As we look here at the Aussie, Oscar Piastri. 10 years ago, an Aussie took pole with a brilliant lap here in Monaco. Can Piastri replicate the heroics of Ricciardo and take his first ever pole here in Monaco? He was second here 2 years ago. What can he do on this occasion? Most likely, he will be a lot closer to 5th, 6th on the grid, but who knows what will happen in these final few minutes. But yeah, it appears that all the drivers are going to do an extra warm-up lap, which is what we've seen in this session and what we've seen pretty much through the season so far, that these tyres do need an extra warm-up lap. As here's Leclerc, who's pushing hard. Is this a proper lap or not? I don't know. As Antonelli starts a run. Is this his first proper run? I guess we'll find out. As he now comes through Casino Square. And yeah, I think he's backed off to a degree. But here is Max Verstappen. And I think now Verstappen has done his warming up and now explodes into action. As so does Piastri. As that McLaren front end looking very strong through the Casino Square section. First sector, a 19-0. What a first sector that is. Can anyone beat that for the first sector? Lando Norris has not. Neither has Charles Leclerc, who's gone a second slower. So clearly either a mistake's been made or Leclerc is doing another warm-up lap. But what a start from Piastri. Can he keep this up? Oh, that looks good through the chicane. This is some lap by Oscar Piastri through to back. He's giving it absolutely everything. Oh, slight wiggle on the exit of the swimming pool. That might have cost him a tenth or so. As, he boots El Raskas, but the rear end won't keep in line. But he comes to the finish line. What's the lap time? It's a 1:12.9. It's a good lap time, but I feel like there may have been another couple tenths in there. As Lando Norris goes a couple tenths quicker on a 1:12.7. As Antonelli does a purple first sector, Leclerc has come back into the pits. As Hamilton, purple middle sector, 10th and a half up. And through the final couple corners, looks good from Hamilton. He comes to the line. Is it provisional pole? Yes, it is by 0.2 of a second. A 1:12.553. As Lawson goes up to 4th. Here comes George Russell, who goes 3rd. Kimi Antonelli goes quickest, a 1:12.3. The quickest lap time so far. Brilliant lap by Antonelli. Nearly 2 tenths quicker than Hamilton. As Verstappen getting a swapper on at Raskas. That would have cost him a bit. But what is the lap time? He's on. Oh, is he on pole? No, he's second by 1,000th of a second. Incredible. As Hadjar goes 6th, 1,000th of a second separates Antonelli and Verstappen on the front row. Wow. As Russell is 5th, still miles off the pace, half a second almost of his teammate. Hadjar 6th, Piastri down to 7th. And Leclerc has failed to do a lap because presumably he made an error at the start of his proper run and into the Casino Square. And he got lucky there. Oversteer on through the middle of Casino Square. He could have ended up right in the barrier there and smashed his car to bits. Very lucky and a good save from Leclerc. But yeah, he will have to go again, obviously. But what a session so far. And the best thing about it is we've got one run to go. Not even a cigarette paper separate Antonelli and Verstappen in the fight for pole position. But will it remain that way? Can Charles Leclerc deliver a lap from the gods to go from 10th to pole? What can Hamilton do? Can McLaren do anything? We are going to find out in these final 6 minutes of qualifying. This is what it's all about. This is why, yes, you can't overtake in Monaco. As Max Verstappen said on Thursday, you've never really been able to overtake in Monaco. This is what it's all about. This is why we keep coming back to the streets of Monte Carlo. As the man they all cheer, the Monegasque himself, Charles Leclerc, is out on the track on an outlap, so he is going to go early. The benefit to that is a red flag will not affect him, because if a red flag comes out, he can just do his lap at the end of the session with everyone else. But on the flip side, he won't have access to the most amount of, or the best grip on the track at the very end of the session. I mean, he will probably do another lap at the end of the session, but he won't have as fresher tyres for that final run if he does do a final run at the very end. So really, Leclerc, if he's going to get pole, he's got to do most of the job with this first run and then finish it off with the final run at the very end. As we're looking here at Leclerc, is this him starting a proper run, or is this him doing another warm-up lap? Visibly, it looks like he's pushing. And yeah, he's done a improved first sector. Don't know how good it is, though. This part of the lap, though, the middle sector, this is where Ferrari are at their best. And this is where Leclerc needs to make the difference. Into the chicane. Didn't look that great, his run through the chicane there. But what's the middle sector time looking like? Oh, he's a second off. So yeah, visibly he's pushing. Maybe not too much now towards the end of the lap. Yeah, he's backed off now, but he just can't quite hook it up quite yet. But we've still got just over 3 minutes to go. So there is still time as he goes for it again through turn 1. And now thunders up the hill into Casino Square. And as close to the barriers as he dares. What's his first sector time? It's a 10th off Antonelli. But again, the first sector is the least important. It's the middle sector where Ferrari are really making their day. As through the tunnel, down to the chicane. And still not the greatest run through the chicane, but a bit better than last time. Through to back. And it's a purple middle sector. Oh, he loses the rear end, an absolute treat. And I don't know how he held on to it, but he did. But I'm not sure this is going to be a pole position lap. As he exits the final corner to the line. And he does go on to pole position. By a quarter of a tenth. How on earth did he keep that together? But we have still got the others to go. Only 0.025 of a second separate the top 3. That's what it's all about. But Leclerc, will he go for another run? You'd hope that Ferrari have filled him up with enough fuel to be able to do that. As we look at Oscar Piastri, who had such a great first sector. It's another very good one. Can he keep it together, though, through the rest of the lap? Lando Norris completes the first sector, and it's slightly quicker than Leclerc. It's the middle sector, though, where McLaren are really suffering. As Verstappen has started his final run. And oh, what a first sector. It's 0.2 up on Leclerc. It's a purple first sector. As Piastri, he's not improving on this lap. But if he has a good enough final sector, maybe he can improve on 8th. But we're now looking all at Max Verstappen. Can he keep up this amazing lap he's on? As Piastri goes 5th. What a final sector. Piastri up to P5. Verstappen, 0.5 up on Leclerc. Is this a pole lap from Verstappen as Hamilton does a purple middle sector? As old Verstappen needed an extra bite at the cherry into the final corner, but he comes to the line. It is pole by 1/4 of a second. A 1:12.0. Lewis Hamilton ends up 2nd. For now. As here comes the 2 Mercedes. Russell will be 1st as Isaac Hadjar goes 5th. Lando Norris is pitted, so both McLarens are done. Russell only 6th. What a disaster for him. Antonelli is coming round the final couple corners. He hasn't done a purple sector. Has he done enough? He comes to the line. Oh, it's pole by 0.5. What a lap by the young Italian as Leclerc has backed off. I think he made a mistake. And Kimi Antonelli, you absolute superstar, you have taken your maiden pole position in Monaco as Leclerc has got a puncture. He's hit the wall somewhere and he's now parked it down the escape road at Rascasse. What a battle between Antonelli and Verstappen, and yet Leclerc lost it through to back, hit the wall. And Ferrari, right there, that is why Ferrari can't win championships, because despite the potential they've got, they always throw it away. But what a battle between Antonelli and Verstappen, 2 generational talents, but it is Antonelli who wins the battle, and Kimi Antonelli is on pole for the Monaco Grand Prix. What a drive, what a lap. Bravo to Kimi. That was superb. I thoroughly enjoyed that. So Antonelli is on pole. Verstappen, what a lap and what a driver he is. 2nd on the grid. Who thought he'd be 2nd on the grid here in Monaco? I don't think anyone did. And then Ferrari, 3rd and 4th. Wrap up the season. It's over. 5th, Isaac Hadjar. 6th, Russell. Russell will be absolutely... his confidence will be in the toilet seeing his teammate on pole. And if it finishes the way qualifying has finished, then Antonelli can end up over 60 points clear of Russell by the end of tomorrow's race. Piastri 7th, Norris 8th. Not really surprised. McLaren just not quick enough. Gasly 9th, Lawson 10th, and the rest of your field: Albon, Sainz, Hulkenberg, Colapinto, Lindblad, Bortoletto, Ocon, Perez, Behrman, Bottas, Alonso and Stroll. But it is Antonelli who has won the day. Wow. That was brilliant. And I will just quickly start up the poll to ask you guys who is your driver of the day for qualifying. But for me, it's, well, clearly down to 2 drivers, Antonelli and Verstappen. But, yeah, Ferrari, just what a complete disappointment. Yeah, let me just update this. So Antonelli Verstappen. What other options? You know what? Shout out Isaac Hadjar. 5th on the grid. Good result. And the other option, I'll go Liam Lawson. Thought he was great today. Driver of the day for me, it had probably... You know what? I'm going to go Antonelli for a couple reasons. Even though, yes, he does have a slightly faster car than Max does. He's the championship leader. All the pressure's on him and the pressure to deliver that final lap, and he delivered it. So congrats to him. 19 years old, but wow, what a special, special driver he is. And yeah, he will surely win tomorrow's race. And if Russell does finish in 6th, then Antonelli would be 60 points clear of George Russell. 60 points clear, which after 6 races is monumental. But with Max able to qualify 2nd, is Max now able to get into this championship battle? We'll see. But Antonelli, for now, and maybe at the end of the season, he is the man. And I'll let you guys cast your vote. Looney Classic says, I don't want to hear anyone saying Ferrari have the best car in the corners. Clearly that has been overblown. They do have the best car in the corners. The problem is, as a team and the drivers, they just are allergic to delivering when it actually matters. We've seen this the last Grand Prix in Canada, even in Miami. This is why they are not championship contenders, because they just cannot maximize when it matters. And Mercedes there and Antonelli, and especially Red Bull and Max, that's exactly what they've done. They've got every inch out of that car. You cannot say the same for Ferrari. Looney saying, Max is not in any championship battle. Come on, Shazza. After last season, I am not prepared to say yet that he's out of it. He was 100 points behind last year, and he was only, 4 points away from winning it? So, I'm not prepared just yet to say he's out of it. Let's wait and see what happens in the next couple races before we say anything. Beast says, Chaz, I think you might be right that Kimi is the better driver. I think I know we're still early in the season, but not looking good for Russell. I think for Russell, I think he's just mentally folded. And I think his comments in the media prove it. He's basically just given up. Really poor from him. You can't give up. We're only 6 races into the season. We've got so many races to go. The final race is what? 6 months away. Like, we're so far away from the end of the season. You can't give up. But it feels like he has given up. If he's pretty much given up, then why should anyone else believe that he's got a chance? But yeah, if Antonelli wins tomorrow, which he will, and if Antonelli wins the next race in Spain, which I think there's a pretty good chance he will, then I think at that point, I think you could probably call it and say that Antonelli is going to win the championship. Because, I just don't see him being stopped at that point. Even Max Verstappen, that Red Bull car is improving all the time. I think Max will win races this year, but if Antonelli can win the next 2, even 3 races, then I just don't see how anyone can stop Antonelli. With the form he's in, and with still how good the Mercedes car is. Yeah. And yeah, Astro basically just repeating what I said, but he was, as he says, typing just as Chazza is saying it. Kimi is not Oscar or Lando. He is levels above those guys. To me, Kimi is just as talented as Max. I agree. Kimi is much better than Oscar and Lando, but I still think Red Bull will get into a position where they can win races. So, yeah, I'm not saying Verstappen, I'm not saying he's got like a properly good chance or anything like that, but let's wait until, say, the end of the Austrian Grand Prix in 3 weeks. If, if Antonelli wins tomorrow and in Spain and even wins in Austria, then I will definitely sit here and say, yes, Antonelli is champion and there is no one that's going to stop him. But with how much Red Bull are improving and with how great Max is, I still think he's got a chance at this present moment. It's still, the gap is still under 100 points. The gap is, 88 points. So yeah, let's just give it another couple races and then we'll see. But I think we'll finish up this poll because I think we've had a clear winner after nearly 100 votes. 90 votes on the question of who is your driver of the day for qualifying in Monaco, and 54% of the vote to Kimi Antonelli. And yeah, I'd have to agree. Max, though, massive shout out to Max Verstappen. What a session. What a lap. What a driver. If you told me 2 weeks ago Max would be on the front row in Monaco, I would have laughed. I really would have. But I think at this point we need to just throw out expectations with Max Verstappen because he always beats them at this point. And then the rest of the vote, what was it? Hadjar on 3% and Lawson on 2%. So there you go. There is your poll results, and that is qualifying for the Monaco Grand Prix. A reminder, I will not be live for the race tomorrow, so hopefully you guys enjoy whatever you can from the Monaco Grand Prix, but the result is pretty much decided. It is a dry race tomorrow, so the rain will not play any role. The weather won't play any role. The only thing we can hope for to change the result is either, DNFs basically, or drivers colliding with the barriers for whatever reason, like Leclerc did at the end of qualifying. So, yeah, congrats to Kimi Antonelli for what will very, very, very likely be yet another win, and his first win. First win of, I think, what might be many in Monaco. But thank you guys so much for coming along for this qualifying watch along. Quite a lot of you obviously have tuned in today. Been great to have you along. And just a reminder, I will be back live next Saturday for qualifying for the Spanish Grand Prix. Whether I'll be live for the race for the Spanish Grand Prix, I haven't decided yet, but I will say at the end of my podcast, which will be coming out on Monday, whether I will or not. So content-wise, yeah, I'll not be doing a race watch-along tomorrow, but I will be doing a podcast on Monday, so make sure to check that out, where I'll obviously review the Monaco Grand Prix weekend. And then, yeah, next Saturday, I will be live at 1:30 p.m. UK time, same start time as today, for the qualifying watch-along for the Spanish Grand Prix. And then, like I said, I'll let you guys know in a couple of days whether I do a race watch-along as well. So yeah, enjoy the Monaco Grand Prix. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks for coming along. Before you go, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. Make sure to smash the like button before you go as well. Really does help the channel and the algorithm, and obviously helps show me that you guys genuinely enjoy the content. And until the next Grand Prix on the calendar, and until my podcast on Monday reviewing whatever happens in tomorrow's Monaco Grand Prix, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.